All right, guys. Well, I still have a little hair left, and I got a lot of bruises on my head from banging my head against the wall, but I have gotten somewhere with this crazy ass light kit that they do. Like, I have never seen something so complicated. Like, my brain cube controllers that I sell need one lead going to the receiver and then one to the battery. I need one channel. Essentially, I take two channels to do the operation. This crazy system, like after plugging and playing and doing this stuff for hours upon hours, I have come up with something that works, but I don't know if it's right. So what I've had to do, there's four leads that this between the wire harness and the controller that you have to come up and do something with. And if you unplug any of those, nothing works right. Like this one is really just needing power, but it has to go to a receiver to see a signal too, but it doesn't need a switching signal, it just needs a signal. And then this one is producing power, so if I plug it into, like, say, my servo tester without a battery on it, it will power up the servo tester. And then I can operate the servo tester off of this power source, but it also will turn the landing light on and off just by being plugged up to this. So that's weird. And then you've got this lead, which goes to a actual switch, like for you to be able to switch the lights completely on and off on the controller. And then you have this lead, which is just supposed to go to your gear channel. But the problem, which that's okay, I get that, because it needs to know when you flip, like, so like here are the lights on there, you flip you bring gear up, that landing light needs to turn off because it doesn't need to be on when it's up in the bay, but the rest of the lights need to be able to stay on. So I get that, but the problem is when you do a normal, and what was making me go crazy was that it would not change or turn off based off of a normal curve, a linear curve. And I found it out by just hooking all three leads up to this, four leads up to this, and then just going back and forth. And that told me, it was like, well, things are working based off of a signal as well as power. So I took the top end of my curve and I brought it down to 55%, and that damn light cut off. Cut back on. So that is the gear down and gear up. So mid position of the curve is gear up. But when I go gear down, which would be 100% normally, which would send the gear down if the light doesn't come on. I have to bring it down. The max you can have on that curve is 55 for it to work, which just blows my mind. I don't understand all that logic, but it's working. So that being said, the other issue after talking to people yesterday is Futaba is stupid. I'm just going to say it right out loud. Like, their logic is, I'm going to turn my radio off here. Their logic is taking something that should be very simple and crazy overcomplicating it. So the 26 channels that you can get with the update, yeah, there's 26 channels, but so the only way to get those extra 17 through 26 channels is to use an S-Bus2 protocol. So if you've got a Futaba receiver, you can run all those servos off of an S-Bus2 protocol, and they work. You'll get 26 channels or 32 if you want to go that far with the expander. The problem is my power system, and most power systems like PowerBox and everything that use receiver type, bus type systems, use the receivers as a serial and can send out the signal as needed. The problem is it won't send an S-Bus2 protocol out because that's typically for telemetry. So that's why all the servos that were assigned to a channel past 16 would not work. The only way that you can make that work is either to use their DLPH1 or 2, probably the 2, probably won't work with the 1 knowing them, and run S-Bus. Or use like a receiver pure, like a Futaba receiver. You can plug all the servos into an S-Bus 2 port. So essentially it is worthless for people that do a power system to kind of separate the load from the receivers, to handle the load of the receivers, to have battery switching and receiver switching. So it's like a serial receiver system. So that is super frustrating, because a $3,200 radio here in the US, in my opinion, is a lesser radio than a $400 to $600 radio that you can get with Spectrum or one of the other brands. That's just crazy. Crazy to me. Like, there should be servo channel capability is a software function. There's no reason why you couldn't have made 1 through 26 channels work the same protocol, because the servo just needs a number and power. It needs a channel number and a power. It needs a pulse and a power signal or source. I don't understand that. And no, I'm not going to change radios. I'm just going to suck it up and have to redo this up here because I don't have enough channels now. So what I'm going to do is probably use one of these, plug it into the S-Bus, wherever it plugs in. It's either the S-Bus 2 or an S-Bus port on the actual, on one of my receivers. It has to be the primary. And then plug in the extra little things that I need. And I'm only going to plug in things that I can afford to lose if that primary receiver goes out. So if that primary receiver goes out, whatever's plugged in here, unless I don't know something, is not going to work. So I'm going to put all this light crap on here and free up the ports on my power system for things like gear. So I'll probably put lights and the missile bays valves in here. So that'll be two valves for the missile bay and 2 ports for lights. So that will give me enough, and I might even have extra on here at that point. So I may not have to put everything on that. It just sucks because it's a little bit of weight, and it's one extra thing I got to pump into a receiver. So there you have it. So jumping over to the A-7. So the A-7 is good to go. I actually did a CG check on this yesterday. Sorry, the light's off. Let me turn the light on here. Shop is still under construction. It'll get there. I'm just having to get ready for vents this year. But so the A-7 is done. I was expecting to have to add nose weight because these I figured would be cause a CG shift aft, because your CG is about right here. But then when I look at it, it's pretty much in line. So when I did the CG check on it yesterday, it balanced perfect. You know, it might have shifted just a little bit because I always kind of had a little bit of nose low, and it was perfectly level. So this jet, with the fuel tank being right here, there is a slight shift aft with fuel. Main gear folds forward, so that'll help a little bit. Nose gear folds aft, which kind of counteracts. So good thing is I didn't have to do any crazy thing. I do have a pilot, and he's just a cheap little cheesy little pilot, half bus, but that's all you can really put in here. It's actually perfect size, and I might put it in there. I'm not one to do pilots, but he kind of looks good in there, honestly. And then when I take him out and look at the jet without him in there, it kind of just, you know, I got to set him up. He's not setting up right, but it looks better with a pilot, and I don't typically do that. He's obviously going to have to be painted because that's like a hideous green for a flight suit, and I don't like the helmet paint. But I might use him. So anyways, so that saved me a little time. And the F-14 really shouldn't need any CGing either, because I didn't change linear actuators. The only thing I did was take out those little pieces of fiberglass that don't weigh anything, and they're they're kind of on the CG too, so it shouldn't have changed any CG. But I'm going to run engines and test everything, and I'll do a quick CG check on it, which is easy. There's 2 screws on the CG on the Tomcat's easy because it's right here on this front spar. So all I do is I loosen that screw right here, take it out about 1/8 of an inch, and then I hook a little wire right there on both sides and just lift it up, and that's your CG point for this, and it's perfect. These were the linear actuators that I was going to use, and from what I understand and what I've seen is the new ones get the L16 100 millimeter 63 gear ratio, which is half the torque of these. R version, which is RC and uses 6 volts, but they do put the metal case on it and the tip, which those are fully proportional without having to do like I'm gonna have to do, is basically stop my wing, put it on a slider and stop my wing where I want it. So if those ever go, then I will just stick these on. And what I'm guessing is that the 63s have the smaller gearbox on them, which was why the 150s wouldn't work. The gearbox was beefier and it wouldn't fit in the metal case. So if I ever switch it out, I'm going to ask my buddy how his is working, because he's building one now. I was told originally by Jonathan at Lighter Side of RC that if you put any pressure on the wings, they would amp out. I just don't see, they're probably fine. So if he flies his on the stock ones and has no issues, then I will eventually switch out to the other actuator, so I can just put it on a 3-position switch and have my wings go where I want. The only problem with that is I will have to go to a smaller battery or get rid of the battery because it'll be powered off the power system. So I'll have to add a little nose weight since I'm getting rid of a 3-cell ion. So, all right, so that's kind of a long-winded video, 12 minutes, not too bad. So back to this guy. So I have got to run to town. I've got to go sign my taxes, go see the tax man and find out how much time I'm going to have to work on the street corner to pay my taxes this year. But I'm going to come back and work on it. Wife's went to the Alabama A game today, so she won't be around until this evening. So I got uninterrupted time. But when I get back, I'm gonna go disconnecting all this crap, getting it reorganized in here. This is ugh. Hate it. Hate this mess. So getting everything put back on, and then at that point it's a setup. I've got to reassign, reprogram the channels in the servos, and because I'm not going to be able to use the 26 channels, I'm going to have to put the leading edge flap, trailing edge flap of both wings on one channel. And to do that, you have to, which is easy, you just tell this one channel 8, channel 8, channel 8, channel 8. But the problem is, how do you individually match servos at that point, or control surfaces? Well, you got to do it in a servo. So that'll be the last thing I do. Once all this crap is set up, I'll come back in here, power it up, make sure the flaps and slats, or leading edge flaps and trailing edge flaps, are all neutral, same position neutral. Lower the flaps to takeoff, make sure they're all at the same angle, and then go to full flaps, make sure they're all the same angle, and you have to do that in each servo. So it'll take a little bit, but other than that, and then I got to combine the, because I want to keep individual rudders. On my last one I had rudders on one channel, but on this one I want to keep them separate so I can do some toe in on the rudders. And because the thrust vectoring, I don't think it does like a split in the real one. Well, it probably does, but I'm just going to be using thrust vectoring as an up and down. So I'll do the same thing, make these channel whatever, and then I'll match them middle, up, and down in the servos. I would love to be able to do, an up and down, so when it rolls, you can do like a thrust vectoring. One goes down, one goes up as it rolls. You know, because this one does use ailerons. It'll be, you know, something like that. So you would see essentially something like that. Up, up, down, down, which is kind of making it roll this way with your ailerons. But you don't even need to use ailerons with this jet, but you can. Anyway, so that's where we're at. That's what I'm up to. So I'm trying to finish. Should be able to get this all done and wrapped up by at least Monday evening. Because Tuesday is an in-office day where I have to work, and then I need to pack everything up. But I'm going to pack these other jets up when I get them test run. I'll probably test run them, if not today, definitely tomorrow. Just run the engines, make sure there's going to be no surprises when I get to the field or get to the event. So you guys take it easy. I know that's a lot going on, jumping around. But yeah, Futaba, man, y'all just taking something that's crazy, should be crazy simple, and just overly, you know, making some weird way of doing some simple things. And you know, I love Futaba, but it's making this kind of stuff really difficult when all the other radio brands are making, granted they have way too much crap that they're putting in here, 4 receivers and all this crazy stuff that they're having to put together, but they're simplifying this part of it. And having, you know, more features in here. That's what I'm seeing. And yeah, I can do it and I'll get it done, but I'm limiting myself. And after these jets and not having any more of those battery backers, like I'm gonna have to go back to a more traditional, you know, run all the wires to, you know, not doing an S-bus type setup. And that's the only reason why I've been, you know, I like it. Futaba has been able to do S-bus. I know the other ones have bus capabilities, so there's really, you know, won't be a reason. So we'll see what the new flagship, you know, whatever comes out down the road after the 32 MZ. We'll see if it's, because I'm just not gonna go spend that kind of money on a radio that doesn't do what I want it to do, when there's other radios that I could spend a fraction of that and have way more capability than I ever need. You know, just because I like the way that it feels in my hand versus the other one. That's the problem. I love the way the Futabas feel. They're good quality radios. The gimbals are great. I don't have signal problems, and I understand them. The other ones are typically all tray radios. You know, that's been my biggest complaint, like with Jetty. Great radios, nothing wrong with them. Have a lot of features and stuff. They've kind of dominated the market here, but absolutely can't stand the way it feels to hold it, because one, it's just a wide radio. I have smaller hands, so I can't, you know, it just doesn't work for me, because I am a strap and hold and manipulate like this kind of thing. So, but anyways, you guys take it easy, and I'm thinking about changing my channel name to something that has some more meaning to me. Everybody knows the Fender Beans stuff. I mean, I've had that handle on the forum since forums came around. But I'm thinking about changing to something, you know, maybe Dragon RC or something like that, just for a personal reason. But just keep in mind, so if the channel names changes, it'll still be me and everything. I just may make my channel a different name instead of Fender Bean RC. But you guys have a good one, and I'm gonna go to town. Cheers.